I'm Mike Hayes, and I chair the State Transportation Commission, and I'd like to say a warm welcome to my counterpart on the Aeronautics Commission, Chair Ben Carter, and the members of the State Transportation Commission and the Michigan Aeronautics Commission. And it's my honor and pleasure to serve as the chair of this meeting today. We rotate that every other meeting, so it'll be Ben's turn next time. But welcome, everyone. I would like to, given what happened last evening, safety is the #1 concern of all of us involved in any form of transportation, whether it be air or land, and quite a tragedy in Washington, D.C. last night. So if I could we all just take a moment of silence and think about those folks that have perished and those who were involved in trying to deal with that situation in Washington. Thank you. So there's many transportation initiatives, as we all know, that we both need to be aware of in both commissions, and that's part of why we get together to kind of exchange knowledge and understanding of what's going on with each other. There are a lot of current types of issues that have come with technology and so on, such as the uncrewed aerial systems, advanced aerial systems, electric vehicles, wireless charging highways, just a myriad of new technologies, which is great, but they require a lot of discussion and understanding so that we're all well aware of how and when these operate. And I think it allows, when we get together like this, for us to share and understand each other and what our priorities are. So again, thank you for all being here. Mr. Chairman, would you like to make a comment?
I'd like to make a couple of comments. Thank you, Chair Hayes. And I really want to thank you again and the State Transportation Commission for upholding this long-standing tradition of conducting a joint meeting. A couple comments about the Michigan Aeronautics Commission. The MAC, as we like to refer to it, is responsible for general supervision of all aeronautics within the state. We have 5 governor-appointed members, 4 statutorily members, and the director that all make up the commission. Some facts. We have 214 licensed airports, 4,222 registered aircraft, 50 flight schools, and 13,505 licensed pilots. Our pavement management program really does focus on safety. The Michigan Airport System Plan, MASP. We have 41 state-maintained automated weather observation systems. Our initiatives around airport development include infrastructure funding, state aeronautics funding, and general fund support, which included in the last 2 years $7 million in air service development assistance, $6 million in local airport development assistance, and $10 million supporting uncrewed aircraft systems, UAS. Our priorities are safety, #1, economic development, preserving critical airport infrastructure, leveraging state resources, efficiency and innovation, and positive influence on state and national aviation issues. We continue to deal with challenges like most industries with rising costs, need for updated funding streams, and local government seeking additional state support. And we're also very much in tune with the workforce shortages that exist throughout the industry and working hard on how we can put more young people into our pipeline to pick aviation, whether it's piloting, aircraft maintenance, airport ground crew support, air traffic control for their future. Thank you, Chair Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that, I'd like to go into our agenda. We have a couple of presentations this morning that ought to be of interest to all 6 of the State Transportation Commission members and all 5, right? Or 6? There's 6 of you, 5.
We got in total 10.
Oh, do you have 10?
Yeah.
Okay. We're outnumbered.
Let's start voting.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Well, the chair gets to recognize whether or not a motion is appropriate. But let's get right into our agenda. And Zach Tecson is with MDOT's Office of Aeronautics, and we'll turn it over to him.
We good? Awesome. Okay. Morning, Commissioners. Morning, everyone. I'm Zach Tecson. I'm with the Office of Aeronautics. I'm in the Airspace and Emerging Aviation Unit. And today I'll be talking about advanced air mobility in Michigan, more specifically highlighting Michigan's AAM Activation Fund projects that we have going on. So I'll start. There we go. I'll start with kind of giving an overview. What is advanced air mobility? Maybe some of us in the aviation industry know a little bit about it, but for those of you that aren't aware, advanced air mobility, in my opinion, is really, I guess, a major inflection point in aviation that we have going on right now. It's a collection of emerging technologies aimed at integrating new, highly automated aircraft into the national airspace. So if you look at the image here, on the top right there, that's one of these new aircraft. It's a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. It could be electric, it could be hydrogen cell, it could be a hybrid energy system. So it could be cargo as well, carrying cargo, passenger. It's very similar to a helicopter, but with the electrification, there's advantages that like a helicopter wouldn't necessarily have. And then on the bottom left of the picture as well, we also have smaller drones. You're probably more familiar with that, maybe seen some of the cool stuff that's going on nationwide with drone package delivery, things like that. That is also encompassed within advanced air mobility. All of these aircraft are designed to move people and cargo between sectors previously underserved by traditional transportation methods. So really advanced air mobility seeks to connect not only other transportation modes, but communities that might be disadvantaged or something like that. So advanced air mobility is really trying to fill some gaps that our current aviation system doesn't necessarily address.
Can you unmute? I'm sorry to interrupt
Oh,
you.
I'm so sorry.
You're okay. My apologies, everyone. Technology.
Let's see if I can do that. Okay, I should be.
Thank you. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Sorry about that.
Well, you can tell he's one of the younger professionals because he fixed it right away.
Oh, well, not out of the woods yet. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So, yes, AAM envisions a future where air travel is more accessible, efficient, sustainable, and economically stimulating to the local communities. The last thing with the image I'll point out is in the foreground, we've got a very urban setting. In the middle ground, we've got a suburban setting. And then in the background, it gets very rural. And again, advanced air mobility is really looking to serve all 3 of those kind of different communities and connect them together in a way that they're not currently really connected. So all of the projects I'm going to talk about today, they're all funded by the AAM Activation Fund, and that's a funding platform that our office, as well as the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, MEDC, put together to accelerate and promote AAM readiness throughout the state of Michigan. So, yeah.
One more cross. Can I get you to reshare the screen for those online? We'll get her.
I can. Sorry about that.
And yes, we're all very glad that Zach is up there and none of us sitting over here. He's the expert. Thank you.
That worked. All right. Okay, getting into the projects then. So starting with Skyports. Skyports is a drone operator. They're actually based out of the UK, but they're doing a lot of work here in the US now, specifically in the niche with drones and maritime activities. So in Michigan, they've actually partnered with Interlake Steamship Company, which is a big player in our maritime logistics that we have throughout the state. So this project is working in the Sault Ste. Marie area and the Detour Village. So Detour Village is on the far eastern part of the Upper Peninsula. They're validating the potential use of drones to be used as an efficient delivery solution between ships passing by and the shoreline. So rather than having a ship come and having to dock, take the time, the energy to dock to transfer small packages or smaller items between the crew and the activity on the land, they're looking at using a drone to efficiently go and fly out to an anchored ship, or have, as the ship goes by, the drone can just automatically go to it and move those goods back and forth. This optimizes maritime logistics, and it reduces emissions because you don't have to have the ship spend the energy to come back into the dock itself. So this project will actually include ship-to-shore operational flights, hopefully starting in April of this year, and then continuing through the summer. So this is a really cool project because obviously Michigan is well connected on the maritime space. We have a lot of shipping lanes throughout the Great Lakes. So being able to showcase this and potentially scale this out for the rest of the state is really cool. The next project is with Traverse Connect up in the Traverse City area. And this one actually has kind of 3 sub-projects within it. But the first one that Traverse Connect is working on is partnering with Munson Healthcare and Central Michigan's Rural Health Equity Institute to utilize drones for medical supply deliveries. One of their main goals for that rural area up there is to support the supply chain resilience of those medical supplies. So making sure that there are multiple options for medical supplies or blood samples or whatever to get delivered efficiently to the people that need them, and ultimately improving patient outcomes using drones. So that's kind of the first project they have going on up there. The second one is also utilizing drones for infrastructure inspection as well as water sampling. So there's a lot of lakes up there as well, and some of the inspection stuff and the water sampling that they're doing, it's really difficult to get to with just getting there yourself on a boat or whatever. But a drone allows you to get out to those places and do those inspections in a much safer space. So they're partnered with Northwestern Michigan College as well as Michigan Tech to kind of do that research up there. The last one that they're doing, and it's really a component of all of these projects, and I think it's really important for all of these projects and drones in general, is they did a drone/advanced air mobility demonstration day. So they brought the community together, they brought stakeholders together to kind of showcase what the cool things that they can do with these drones, the medical supply deliveries, the infrastructure inspection. I think right now drones are very much, they're in the news a lot. People see them in a negative light, but being able to go out there and show some of the cool and awesome things that drones can do is really important for projects like these. And that's something that was a big part of the Traverse Connect project. Next, we have Michigan Central. So this is in the greater Detroit area at the train station, the Michigan Central train station down there. This is part of a bigger project that our office has been involved in for a little while now, called the Advanced Aerial Innovation Region, or AIR for short. So they're taking their grant money from this project, and they're building out kind of 4 different infrastructure things. First, they're doing They're leveraging the funding for detect and avoid infrastructure to enable beyond visual line of sight operations, or BVLOS operations. In the drone space, right now, under current regulatory kind of bounds that we have, drones cannot go beyond my own visual line of sight as I'm flying it. There are safety concerns, obviously, with flying beyond that, but there's a lot of test cases and things going on around the country to enable beyond visual line of sight, and that really unlocks a lot of advanced operations moving forward. So at Michigan Central, they've put in low altitude radar, ADS-B in, a bunch of different sensors to enable that BV loss operations. And they've actually done, to this point, a couple of beyond visual line of sight operations down there, leveraging this hardware. Next, they're doing an air operations center. So I think actually I wrote it down on this slide wrong. I think it's the 12th floor of the Michigan Central Station rather than the 13th floor, but it's one of the higher floors. It's highlighted there on that image on the top left. They're going to renovate that entire floor and turn it into an operations center for drone operations, not just happening in the Michigan Central area, but as beyond visual line of sight kind of grows throughout the state and the country, they want to turn that operations center, operating drones that are happening in the UP or flying in the UP, you want to be able to control them from that operations center there in Detroit, which is really cool. So yeah, they're building that out. They're going to have all the things operators will need, high-speed internet, everything that you would need to enable those BV loss operations. The last two are kind of tied together infrastructure-wise. They're basically drone ports that they're building out on the Michigan Central campus. So they've got two of them. The first one is the launch pad. That's actually on the roof of one of their of the book depository building, one of the buildings they have on campus. And it's actually, it's hard to see on the picture, but it's right next to the freight elevator. And in the basement of that building, they have manufacturing going on. So they're going to leverage this drone port for those manufacturing companies. They're going to be able to have parts delivered to that drone port autonomously, and then they can bring it through the freight elevator right down to their manufacturing in the basement of that building. So amongst a bunch of other things, that's a really cool use case for that drone port. The other one is the scaled launch facility. So that's on the ground, and that is a much, much larger drone port that they have going on. That's going to be more of their testing and like using that for operators to come in and make sure that their drones are able to land autonomously and test and all of that stuff. So that one's a little bit of a bigger open sandbox for operators. The last project we have going on is with Beta Technologies, and they're an electric charging company. They're going to be installing multimodal chargers at 4 airports throughout Michigan. So at Cherry Capital Airport in Traverse City, Capital Region here in Lansing, West Michigan Regional Airport in Holland, and then Willow Run Airport in the greater Ann Arbor area are all in the process of getting an electric charger, aircraft electric charger installed. So this is going to connect Michigan to Beta's extensive electric charging network. I'll show a really cool slide here in a minute that kind of shows that, and it really prepares Michigan for the emergence of electric aircraft. So in the background, that's what the chargers look like. I know they don't look, they just look like a box on the ramp there, but in the foreground is actually one of Beta's electric aircraft. It's a short takeoff and landing electric aircraft. It's in its cargo configuration. So for those of you that are familiar with the aviation aircraft a little bit, this is like a Cessna Caravan type aircraft. And the idea is maybe not replacing Cessna Caravan right away, but it would supplement those kind of middle range flights for cargo. But that is a fully electric aircraft as well. It's going through certification, as is a lot of these newer aircraft. So as promised, this is kind of the map of Beta's current charging network. So the dark circles are current electric chargers that Beta has deployed and operational, and then anything that is gray or in white, as is the ones in Michigan here, those ones are currently being built or in the process of planning and all of that. Something that I want to point out with this map is I think with the adoption of these 4 chargers in Michigan, it really positions Michigan well to be an anchor point for the Midwest as electric aircraft kind of, or the electric charging network kind of grows going westbound here out from the east side. Another thing that isn't pictured in this map, Beta is actually a Canadian company, but this map is only the United States, but they do have electric chargers in Canada as well. So again, our where we're located really is great for us because now we can also tie into the chargers in Canada as well. So really cool stuff there. Those are, again, very high level overview of the 4 projects that we have going on that are for advanced air mobility. We've got the AM Activation Fund that's still open right now, and we have potentially a round 2 here coming soon. So if anyone has any projects that are related to advanced air mobility, UAS, furthering any of that in the state of Michigan, my email is here. You can shoot me an email, and I can get you in the or point you in the right direction for the application itself. But with that, before we move on to our next presenter, do we have any questions from Commissioner Public?
Are there any questions from either commissions? Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation, Zach. What were the amounts of grants that these 4 projects were granted from state funds?
Yeah, so they were all varying degrees or varying amounts. The total was $4.9 million, and I don't have the exact values off the top of my head for each one of them. Michigan Central was a little bit more. I think that was around $2 million. The Beta one was also around $2 million. The Traverse Connect and the Skyports were the remaining amount split evenly, so about $500,000 each.
You mentioned you were soliciting additional grant requests. How many monies are left appropriated to grant?
So I think that's something that we're currently still finalizing. It's going to be less than this. This was fiscal year 2024. So it's going to be a little less than that, I think. I think we're in the ballpark of $3 to $4 million at the moment, but that's still being finalized between us and MEDC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? Yes.
Zach, I'm just curious, is there any indication of how quickly these charging stations will actually charge an aircraft from experience in the field?
I do not have that information off the top of my head. I can reach out to the Beta team and get that answered and get that over to you. Sorry.
Okay, well, thank you, Zach, very much. That was a lot of insights there and exciting stuff. So thank you very much for your work on all this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. I think I am introducing our next speaker as well. So that's going to be Michele Mueller from MDOT Connected and Autonomous Vehicle Team. This should be her presentation.
And she will be virtual, I understand.
Yes. So let me make sure that that is all set up as well.
All right, thanks, Zach. Can you guys hear me okay and see the slides?
I think she's going to share it.
Oh, is she going to share?
Ask her.
We can hear you, we can see you, and
Okay.
we are slowly getting the slide, I think, at full screen. There you go. Michele, you're all set. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, and I apologize that I am virtual. I had something come up for another project I had to do, so I apologize for that, but super happy to be here to share with the group some of the things that are going on. So to introduce myself, I am Michele Mueller. I manage our connected, automated, and electrification team in Southeast Michigan. So I'll run through just some things, happy to take any questions as well. So really just set a little bit of a foundation for some back history as we start to look. So probably no surprise to anyone in that room, a lot of our focus is on safety and bringing safety forward to our infrastructure for the users of our system, but then also looking at, and that's users motorized and non-motorized, but then also looking at opportunities for safety for our own staff and consultants and contractors that are working on our roadway system. Oh, can you not see my slides?
Yeah,
We're sharing them here in the room, but we're not seeing them online. So we
Oh,
can share
hang on,
them
let
from
me
there
try
if
to-
you want, Michele.
yeah,
Maybe
Michele.
if I can- Okay, let me reshare here and see if that works.
There we go. Now we've got them.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yep, sorry about that. So with that, here you can read the slides, share some of the statistics, and really kind of hones in on the focus for all of us as a department, and then us looking at opportunities to bring technology. Doesn't have to be super technology, but bringing technology in for actual solutions to some of the challenges we have. And as you can see, the numbers are pretty high for, vehicle traffic crashes, our non-motorized community of users, and then also for our commercial vehicles users of our system. So real quick, we do align with our MDOT mission and all of looking also into collaboration amongst our different state agencies. Our team and environment does a lot of work across the agencies, that you see here from the economic side, workforce side, Office of Future Mobility Electrification. We do a lot of synergies of different projects and initiatives with both reaching out to companies and then also bringing those opportunities here, both from a technology startup here all the way to large OEMs. And then obviously Department of Energy that we have in our infrastructure office. We do look at all the different initiatives and plans that we have across all of our modes of transportation as we continue to develop projects and make sure and ensure we do have the alignment associated to those. So just a quick snapshot of a history. These are just kind of quick hits just to show a visual, and I'll dig into a couple of these projects in more details. But for many years, we've been working in the space. We've continued to build on that. And some of these projects, I actually involve partnerships with Canada. So really interested in that. You'll see some of the highlights that I give in the projects of some of those deep dives there as well. But really just, the onus on the fact that we actually, have been involved from military, other countries, different modes of transportation, and really looking at a variety of solutions associated to those. So start digging into some of the projects that we have, just to highlight those. So we have underway, actually just finishing up here in the last couple of weeks actually, of a cross-border mobility project that we did. We had over 100 stakeholders between the US and Canada, which is honestly a very big achievement to have that much interest. We went through the a couple phases on the project. One, really, the first phase focused on bringing all the stakeholders together, identifying the needs and the opportunities, and where some of the challenges really were between different parts of integration between the two countries, facilitation of movement of freight, non-motorized users, and then also, obviously passenger vehicles. And we did have participation as well from the air mobility side, which you just heard from Zach. So a lot of synergy that happens there. We took all of that information, condensed it together, and now are nearing the last pieces of looking at the different use cases for actual solutions to these challenges. Believe it or not, some of those were just, communication, things, and then some were a little bit more intense. So what we're going to do is take those opportunities for those use cases and solutions, and now start moving forward to look at funding opportunities for those, both on the US side and also on the Canadian side. So very happy to have those, and gives us really a good position to go after different grant opportunities that may come forward. One we did receive, which was a real quick win for the group, was we did receive a SMART grant that we are utilizing the Blue Water Bridge for. And really the grant focuses on the ability to, excuse me, have pre-crossing check-in, shipment tracking and tracing, different documents that we need to make that a sustainable opportunity to go after the second phase of funding. And really sharing, a lot of it is around sharing information. So currently there's a lot that happens where things are kind of, 4 times the same information has to be shared. It creates delays, it creates challenges for the shippers to move goods, and it creates challenges for us internally. So really, how do we take all that, how do we compile that, and have the ability to share that information across an equal platform? We have another project that's underway that we get an ATC MTD grant for from the federal government down in Detroit area. As you can see here, basically runs from downtown up towards 696. And the focus of that project is a couple key areas. One of those being to have instrumentation at 52 intersections. We did include the portion in the city of Detroit within this that they own that goes from Woodward up to Adams. but really looking at how can we give alerts for safety of pedestrians. Obviously that area has a lot of them. How do we integrate those alerts into our transit group, where we have a lot of public transportation that's happening, to alert them when pedestrians are around the transit vehicles at intersections, to alleviate some of the challenges we're seeing in the pedestrian way. Part of the project includes a couple other key areas. One of those is signal priority and preemption through a connected vehicle application, that they would actually have priority and or preemption depending on who it is for, say, transit, our snowplow fleet, keep them moving, right? So when they're treating, plowing, those types of activities, they could continually move through the corridor as opposed to, starting and stopping in those processes, and essentially treat more efficiently. The other is we have some wrong-way driving installations that are going in more towards downtown Detroit and 375 area and some other locations where we are seeing an uptick in those incidents happening. So really, I'm taking the opportunity to identify where some of those folks are getting on the freeways and whatnot, and creating a wrong-way driving situation where we can actually, we're installing a system to give them alerts to hopefully stop them before they enter the freeway, and alert them with the fact that they are entering on the wrong ramp and whatnot. The other area we're working, and you'll see the next couple slides, within our work zones. Unfortunately, another area where we are seeing the numbers go in the wrong direction is incidents that are happening within our construction zone, and not only for the users of our infrastructure system, but also for our workers, both our internal workers and then our contractors and consultants as well, as I mentioned before. So we did a lot of testing in partnership with General Motors. We've been working on that for a while. And actually, we have the ability to take information as we have smart arrow boards, smart speed limit signs, these types of things, and actually give them into the vehicle. Now, realizing that we know that not all vehicles are capable of receiving this information internally, so we do have the ability to port it into different third-party apps. If you think of Waze, and those types of apps that people are using, that we can actually get this information in. We can give them information to tell them what the speed limit is. We can give them accurate information of where workers are present, they need to reduce their speed. We can let them know which lanes are closed. So those types of things is where we really have the data showing that these are challenges within our work zones, and now finding proactive ways, to bring technology forward to help reduce some of those things. The other thing that we're working and did some testing in our work zones is we partnered with some folks to look at utilizing orange pavement markings. So as you can see in the image on the 96 project we had, we partnered with our local office there to do really just a test section to understand. We put out quite a bit of opportunity to get feedback. So we reached out to the public, both on social media and other aspects, to get their feedback about, did it bring more awareness to them when the marking color changed? What impact did it have? What did they see in the evening hours? Those types of things. The interesting part is the feedback was a lot of challenges seeing the orange markings and the difference in the evening. The other challenge was that from an automated vehicle perspective in the testing we did is the sensors weren't picking up the difference between orange marking and yellow marking. So these are things that we continue to look and work with our industry partners, to say we did receive, and we received quite a bit of good feedback during the day, that it actually brought awareness to folks that they were entering, something changed, something was different, which brought them attention, towards that. So now looking to say, what can we do to, is this something that maybe automated vehicles would pick up in the future, the difference? And is that something we would support or not? So it hasn't moved into movement of any towards of standard changes or, allowance of the orange markings, from a federal perspective, but we continue to build on that from what we learned from this, to understand, is there an opportunity there, as things continue to change. So we'll continue to monitor that as well. The other last piece of the work zone that is very important as well is looking at commercial vehicles. So we did receive 2 grants from the federal motor carrier. One of those, both focused on work zones, but one of those is focused on static work zones, so our work zones that last longer, are in place for a longer period of time, but then also those that are moving work zones. So if you think of pothole patching, lane striping, those types of things where we do see a lot of crashes happening, we're looking at both of those scenarios to say, how can we integrate the information from our work zones into the vehicles, into these commercial vehicle platforms. It's very difficult to do. They have a lot of rules around what can go into those cabs and how that is processed. So really working through that, working how we can share that information prior to them getting to the work zone. So say they're going interchange or freeway to freeway through an interchange, is having that opportunity to get them the information so when they do make those merges and things, they're in the right lane. A lot of our crashes and our data is showing that a lot of that happens when they're actually coming into the work zone, kind of changing lanes, working around other vehicles and things. So the more information we can give them, the better decisions they can make entering into these areas. Another project that most of you have probably heard about, it's got a lot of media coverage, continues a couple years later, is our, Michigan did have the first public electric vehicle wireless charging road. The first section, quarter mile, is actually down on 14th Street, and where Zach showed the work with Michigan Central, it's right outside the new lab building there, if you're familiar with that. When you do go down there, you can't actually see the charging coils because they're underneath the pavement. However, we do have the in-motion charging on 14th Street in both directions. And then we also have a couple static inductive charging locations where, say, a shuttle van, a last mile delivery can pull up and they can sit on there and they can actually receive a charge, from underneath the pavement. The second piece that we're underway with in design right now is in conjunction with the Michigan Avenue reconstruction project. So we are working with that team to integrate the technology in there with a large focus, which you'll see in a minute, on the transit side of things. So here's some pictures. I love pictures. I think pictures speak a million words for folks, so hopefully maybe a little bit small for you guys, but happy to always share more. We have tons and tons of video, drone video, and whatnot. We did the installation. The key pieces maybe to look at here, as you can see, the black segments there look kind of like 8. That is what the coils are in that underneath that neoprene shield and embedded in that. We put a trench in. You can see the cabling there that runs all through that trench, and then the cabling all goes back to a large management box. So this is, again, underneath the road surface. First one ever done. We had a great team. We had a paving contractor and whatnot. We all learned at the same time and did a lot of on-the-spot revamping of processes and things like that to accommodate that. Successfully was achieved and is currently operational today with getting a lot of good data out of it. And that data is coming in the upper left-hand corner. You can see we do have a van that was provided by Ford. It's an e-transit van. That continues to run on a very large testing plan. They're out testing every day, different times of the day, different weather, and we are starting to post those out onto our project site so that others can see what we're getting out of that, what we're learning, and actually start to see the data coming off of that. The other use cases we're looking at that I've mentioned is last mile delivery. Happy to say in the last couple months, we've shared that we are partnering with UPS. They are going to do some testing here, and then also they're doing an installation at their facility, which will also give us a lot of information as well that they're funding. The transit piece will be out on Michigan Avenue. We are doing some light testing on 14th Street. It's just a little bit short location, so a lot of that will happen out on Michigan Avenue. We're working to secure with some partners some electric transit buses. The other piece to highlight here is looking at passenger vehicles. So we don't have any just average people kind of vehicles instrumented, but we are working with our industry partners who have taken their company vehicles out there and have done some testing as well. The key pieces to this is we are really focusing and moving towards interoperability, which means that any electric vehicle would be able to utilize the electric infrastructure in the road. Right now, you actually have to have a receiver from Electrion that matches, pairs with the coils in the road. So that is where the industry is moving. We're pushing very hard on that. And we've got some things, in the works coming up to push industry to get there, maybe a little faster than it's moving right now. One of the last projects I'll share, again, probably one that you've heard of, is our project on I-94 with an entity called CAVNU. We are underway, if you can maybe see in there the little brown, if you look maybe towards a little to the middle left, it says pilot. We have a 3-mile segment that's underway and operational today out on westbound 94. That is continuing, starting, really working to pull data off of that to start to understand what can the system actually give us. And a lot of the technology that you see here, this is not actually our roadway, but it's just a rendering, is looking at all of the different hardware infrastructure that will be in the median. The current pilot does have the lane separators if you've driven through that area. We are looking to evaluate whether those are something that would be needed, as they start to look at the 50-mile section of this, and what that will look like. So the goal of this is to identify the different opportunities for sharing information, really having the software analytics look at applications and use cases for safety of the motorist, but then also looking at, what benefits can we get as a department for managing that infrastructure. How can we use the data to make business decisions? How can vehicles use the data to avoid crashes? And then really looking, long-term, if they were to charge a user fee for that lane, what does that give the people who are paying to use that lane? You can get maybe closer headways, things like that, where you can facilitate movement of traffic quicker through that environment. So really working through this pilot piece and working on the longer-term agreement and what that would look like to understand what the benefits are out of this, to do a true evaluation for the benefits for the state of Michigan. I'm going to dig into that. I know I'm running short on time here, so I'll just cover the last one. Very new, hot off the press, is Director Weebrick, who I know is in the room, actually was able to announce a new partnership that we have. We're just getting underway, so we don't, starting to work through the details, working with an entity called Haas Alert. What we're looking to do is the initial pilot that the Office of Future Mobility and Electrification has funded for us is to look at how we can utilize the technology to bring safety into our vehicles. So we will be instrumenting some of our state vehicles, looking at potentially our freeway courtesy patrol vehicles, and other assets, users that we have in connections with, to understand how can we provide safety for them. So what this will do is, say we have a vehicle, just probably easy to understand, doing maintenance on the side of the road, or a freeway courtesy patrol vehicle, it will send out basically a signal from the vehicle that it is there. So it will transmit, and it will can go right into vehicles that have the technology to receive that there is something on the side of the road, bring awareness to them. And then also, for those that don't, can go through and will go through a third-party app to give awareness to that. So we are partnering with the state police as well. They do have these systems installed in some of their vehicles. And the other piece to this is looking at how can you give information from different vehicles of location. Say emergency vehicles are both approaching an intersection because they're both in response, to alert each other of where they're at to avoid some of those crashes that we're seeing happening in our intersections as well. So super excited to get underway with this. We have a number of conversations going to start laying out exactly where these will be. We're going to not only look in Southeast Michigan, but also looking statewide, some of our garages, and whatnot, to look at, really what's that capture, to understand what's rural, applications and evaluate the true benefit to the state of Michigan to determine if this is something, that we should move forward in a larger scale deployment, and look at what those advantages are. So more to share later coming on that, but we are the first state to actually do this partnership with Haas, and we are super excited to be part of that. So with that, I know it was very quick, and hopefully it gave you just a real large snapshot of where some of the highlights of the things we're doing that we could bring forward. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Michele. A lot of information in there. Are there any questions from either commission? Okay, I see none. Thank you, Michele, very much. Very informative, and both you and Zach, it's great to see you folks presenting such interesting and innovative ways of using today's technology. Appreciate that.
Great. Thank you very much.
So before I go to public comments, are there any concerns, comments from either the Aeronautics Commission or the Transportation Commission that you'd like to bring up at this time? I see none, so we will entertain public comments. The only one I've been notified of is Mr. Jack Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman, would you like to address the joint meeting?
Public or transportation funding reform. Now here's an update on that. On January 16, Michigan Speaker of the House, Matt Hall, laid out a plan with specifics. 1, no new taxes. 2, $3.1 billion is raised by restricting to roads the entire $2.2 billion from the state corporate business tax and $900 million from the state sales tax. 3, locally owned roads only, none for state roads, aviation, rail, or comprehensive transportation. In her auto show speech the day before, the governor conceded that in order to fund the state transportation system, part would have to come from cutting programs in other areas, but to meet the needs of the entire system, including state roads and comprehensive transportation, and to maintain an economic development program, new sustainable funding is necessary. The governor is asking for a plan, and I suggest this commission give her one. MDOT's 5-year program states on page 22 that the state has a shortfall itself of $3 billion per year just to keep state roads and bridges in their current state of repair. New funding limited to locally owned roads does not touch this problem. Annual pavement damage of about $10 billion is 99% caused by heavy commercial trucks, and state roads carry close to 90% of heavy truck miles. Help the governor out. Tell her the Transportation Commission is willing to take the heat for exercising its constitutional and statutory authority to establish and enforce a regulatory fee based on miles and weight to commercial operators in exchange for the privilege of operating heavy trucks on the state transportation system. A charge of 25 cents per mile on a 40-ton 5-axle combination would generate $1.5 billion. The mechanism for collecting such charges is already in place and functioning through the International Registration Plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Any questions? Thank you very much. I think that concludes the agenda we had for today's joint meeting. Chairman Carter, would you care to address the folks and anything else?
No, again, want to thank you for carrying on the tradition of this joint meeting. The presentations are exciting, and there is a lot of innovation in ground and air transportation that's in front of us. So the work of the commissions and their role in that, it continues to be exciting as well. So I want to just thank all of the commissioners of the Michigan Aeronautics Commission for being here today, and also thank all the commissioners for the State Transportation Commission for being here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Carter, and I would echo those comments completely. So with that, the joint meeting of the State Aeronautics Commission, Michigan Aeronautics Commission, and the State Transportation Commission will be adjourned. like to call the January 30th, 2025 meeting of the State Transportation Commission to order. And we just left a joint meeting with the Michigan Aeronautics Commission. So we're now reconvening as State Transportation Commission. We'll start out our meeting today as per our usual practice and ask the director to provide us some of his thoughts.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, commissioners. Just a few things to talk to you about today. Always like to talk about the good things the department does and celebrate our past successes. I'm going to talk a little bit about our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, just an update on that, and then just a real short piece on a little bit of restructuring we've done at the department around public affairs. So, this is trunk line accomplishments for 2024, $2.6 billion of investment, of highway program investment. As you see there, that led to well more than 1,700 miles of roadway being fixed, more than 200 bridges being fixed. But it's not just the highway pieces, it's also the, the maintenance pieces and the system operations and how we operate and the dollar amounts that we spend on safety. It's a big lift. This is a lot of work. Compared to previous years, our program would be approaching about $1 billion a year. This is largely fueled by the governor's Rebuilding Michigan bond program, financing program that's allowed us to pick off some really big, high-profile projects, our biggest routes that carry the most freight and the most economic value in the state, along with people and commuters as well. So really proud of the department and our employees. I'm proud of working with our contracting industry and the labor forces that they bring, as well as our consulting engineers that help us deliver this program. DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program Update. Just in general, we have a goal-setting process that we work through with Federal Highway Administration and our folks to determine what is an appropriate goal that we can set under, I believe it's Title 49. This is in law. This is federal requirements that we set these as goals on projects relating to the type of work that we have, the amount of work that we have, the geography of the work we have. Overall, for the years 23 to 25, that goal is 9.5%. You can see that there are goals, they're split out specifically by consciously focusing on race versus race neutral. 2024, we didn't quite meet our goal, but we came close, a little bit under at 9%, and you can see how the splits between conscious and race neutral played out. And the bigger item here is really close to $150 million went to these DBEs. That's this number. When we report to Federal Highway, we typically only report the federal dollars. These actually include all dollars, federal and state. And if there were any local participation funds that were part of that, would be included in this as well. And you can see the pie chart there, kind of how it breaks out between females, non-minority females, and males. Along with the DBE, our Office of Business Development has a strong small business program. This is race conscious and race neutral. Obviously, we want to be able to support small businesses. We want them to be competitive. We want them to be part of our workforce. And really, to me, this is really about building the workforce that does the work for us, not only providing opportunities, but also growing the pool and growing competition, which ultimately helps the taxpayer. In that small business program, we are starting a loan program. This is really intended to provide folks capital for startup. So let's say they get a contract, great. They have to go out and do the work and expend time, labor, materials, equipment to get reimbursed. A lot of times small business might not have that upfront capital. So we'll be able to provide them fairly short-term loans for them to be able to get that in the pipeline. It has been a barrier in the past for some small businesses, so as you see here, it is fully funded, and we expect that these loans are going to start out this spring, maximum of $300,000 at any one time. And like I said, once they go out and do the work and then they're reimbursed for their funding, they start paying that monies back. We're also doing what's called a small business construction incubator. We've long done training for folks, but this is kind of doubling down on that and really providing strong basic training on our construction contracting and the processes associated with contracting. You can see here bonding and financial training, CDL assistance, even getting folks their CDL license, again, to be able to be part of our workforce. We're working on developing a mentor-protege program, which we already do on our consulting engineering side, where we partner up a protege, maybe a small business that doesn't quite have enough experience to really become pre-qualified to do our work. We partner them up with potentially a larger firm or another firm that does have that experience. And they actually do that work on a project together. So mentor-protege, a little bit of guidance, a little bit of learning, to be able to coach them up to build their resume and their portfolio of work so that they can be eligible to become pre-qualified and eventually be part of our pool that competes for work. Working with MITA on that, our Michigan Infrastructure and Transportation Association folks, targeting later this summer to start kicking that off. The last piece related to the DBE program, this is really just for information, and at this point, we only know what we know. In the Eastern District of Kentucky courts, 2 Indiana-based contractors filed suit claiming that the DBE program was unconstitutional and that it discriminated based on race and gender. The judge has not made any final decision, but there has been a preliminary injunction. That injunction only applies to these 2 contractors. The rest of the DBE program is still in law and it's still in full effect right now. But these 2 contractors, there's 25 different states that have been identified. If they say that they intend to bid on a project, they have to get a hold of the Department of Justice and say, okay, here's all the jobs that I plan on bidding on in Michigan or in Illinois or in one of the other 25 states. Department of Justice will go to US DOT and Federal Highway, who will in turn come to MDOT and say, one of these 2 or both of these have the intent of bidding on these projects. Therefore, MDOT, we must set the DBE goal to 0 on those jobs. So it's a fairly thin slice of the overall program, but it is what we're facing right now with respect to this preliminary injunction. Like I said, for all other pieces of the DBE program, we are still moving forward. We have no idea of time frame on when this might be ultimately settled. And just to give you a little flavor, I think we had 18 or 19 projects in our December letting for about $100 million worth of work for where we had to lower or eliminate the DBE goal. Nothing in January, and I think there was 1 project in February, or will be in February. It's a pretty sizable job, but just 1. So at the end of the day, this is just something that we're keeping our eyes and ears open. We'll see what happens next. We really have no idea, but that's the process that we're having to follow right now with respect to this injunction. And then the very last thing is just kind of a bit of a reorg in the department. You guys probably remember Troy Hagan, who was our Office of Governmental Affairs, and I know helped out with the commission very well. Troy is no longer with the department, obviously. He is with one of our industry partners, so luckily we still get to see him from time to time. But we have kind of used that as an opportunity to restructure. Whereas Jeff Cranston was the director of our Office of Communications and Troy was the director of Governmental Affairs, we've actually combined those areas under one entity called Public Affairs. So Jeff is now the director of all public affairs, really helping to coordinate between communication and messaging, obviously along with the legislative piece, but we're also pulling a little bit of our policy into that as well. We have folks in our policy area, in our Bureau of Transportation Planning, the folks that are really focused on kind of the legislative pieces of it and some of the federal rulemaking and whatnot. This was not to say that the way that the department was working was wrong or broken or incorrect. I just saw, from my perspective, an opportunity to strengthen it. And that's what we're doing. We still have a lot of policy folks within the Bureau of the Bureau of Transportation Planning, sorry. And we have to have continually close coordination with them. But by putting an umbrella of public affairs over communications, policy, and legislative affairs, I have just seen as a way to kind of strengthen our focus in those areas. With that, that was all I have for you today. Do you have any questions that I might be able to answer?
Thank you, Director Riefrich. Are there any questions of Brad before we let him go? We know he has a pressing meeting downtown, but any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll move into the business portion of our commission meeting then. The first item are the minutes from the November 7th, 2024 commission meeting. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review them. Are there any corrections, comments, or concerns? It has been moved that we approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passed unanimously. First, as you know, a few months ago in a commission meeting, we agreed that it would be timely to take a comprehensive look at the State Transportation Commission policies that are presently in effect, give them a good solid look as to whether or not they still make sense, whether they're timely, whether they've been, substituted by now statute or whatever. But whatever, we decided to take a look at those. We asked Commissioner Salisbury and Commissioner Welborn to work with me as a subcommittee, and then we we're enabled in our activities by Jack and Laura Mester and Amy, who took Tori's place. And so we've been in that process. The subcommittee met. I don't know if it's a subcommittee. I guess it is. Task group met, and we, at our last meeting, if you saw in the minutes, we did adopt some updated policies. We now have a few to put before the commission today. In your pre-reading packet, there were five policies that we thought we would consider today. I'd like to take the chair's prerogative to take Commission Policy 10003 off the table for today. We'll consider that at the next meeting, and look at 06, 15, 136, and 237. And I asked Jack if he would kind of tee up where we're at with those policies. Jack?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everybody. So Policy 6, Standard and Supplemental Transportation Construction Specifications. I believe we're recommending minor revisions to more accurately present the Commission's intended involvement with the standard updates. Basically, the current or old policy, if we if it ends up being the old policy, states that the changes to the spec book require commission approval, and the commission expects that there would be no significant departure. You know, if adopted, basically we get to the point that the commission expects no significant departure from the idea of maintaining sound construction and bidding processes. So that's where it stays, and you're out of the approval of the spec book business. I would ask that you consider.
Are there any
adopting.
questions of Jack or of the subcommittee? Jack, could you kind of, when you're talking, turn that microphone a little bit more towards you? Very good. Any questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to adopt that policy as revised.
Make a motion.
Mr. Salisbury made a motion. Commissioner Schultz, second. Any discussion? If not, Michael, could you take a roll call vote on that?
Okay, for the roll call vote on the motion for policy 1006, Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salisbury.
Yes.
Commissioner Welborn.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 6 votes affirming the motion.
Okay, passes unanimously. Jack, could you take us to our next?
Policy 15 is called Construction of Motorist Delay Costs During Project Scoping. Is being recommended that the policy be rescinded as MDOT's Work Zone Safety and Mobility Manual provides for consideration of motorist delay costs. MDOT has been following this policy for at least 28 years. It is unlikely that these activities and considerations will cease.
Are there any questions or concerns about this policy update? Well, it's actually a policy that we're rescinding.
Rescinding. Yes, sir.
If not, I would entertain a motion to rescind policy 100015. 10015.
I'll make the motion to rescind that original policy.
Thank you. Commissioner Salisbury, motion. Support?
Support.
Support from Commissioner Welborn. Any discussion? Michael, could you call the roll?
Yes, for the roll on rescinding policy 10015, Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salisbury.
Yes.
Commissioner Welborn.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
You have 6 votes. The policy is rescinded.
Thank you. Motion passed unanimously. Jack, would you go on to our next policy?
Policy 136 pertains to noise abatement, and it is being recommended some revisions to simplify the types of noise abatement programs and accurately present the Commission's and MDOT's responsibilities and update the annual reporting requirements. The policy was previously, you could say it was bloated with text that was already addressed by the underlying Code of Federal Regulations.
Any-
Motion to adopt the revision, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved. Is there support?
Support.
And it's been supported on the 2 commissioners on the end. Any further discussion? If not, Michael, would you call the roll?
Yes, to modify policy 136, Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salisbury.
Yes.
Commissioner Welborn.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
You have 6 votes. Policy is modified.
Thank you, Michael. It was unanimous vote to adopt that policy. Jack, next and last.
Policy 237, the border crossing policy. We recommended some minor revisions to the wording and to remove sections that are no longer applicable. For example, the old or current policy, I guess, required MDOT to work cooperatively with other agencies. This is already a long-standing established MDOT practice that, if eliminated, someday would probably lead to ineffective efforts. So this is, it's a good thing, so.
Okay, are there any questions? If not, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the revisions.
Commissioner Salisbury,
Second.
I didn't hear, was that Commissioner Schultz? Thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, Michael, would you call the roll?
For the vote on revising policy 237, Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salisbury.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilburn.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Commissioner Turner.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
You have 6 votes unanimous.
Thank you, Michael. That policy is adopted as presented in a unanimous vote. In case anybody was taking notes before, the policy before this one was, the motion was by Commissioner Turner, second by Commissioner Brown. Okay.
So I might add, just as a status report, we are 12 down and 14 remaining to be discussed in future meetings. But thank you so much for your time.
Very good. And those 14 we hope to have dealt with during this calendar year. So thank you, and thanks everybody involved. Reviewing policy is not the most entertaining activity to take part in, but it's good. It's good to have updated and current and relevant policies. So knowing full well what the limited authority is of the State Transportation Commission by the Constitution, we're conducting those reviews, recognizing that where our authority is and where it isn't. So appreciate all involved, and appreciate the commissioners taking the time to review and consider changes or recensions or whatever. Before I go to the next item, I had a note to myself here, and I just overlooked it, but I'd like to bring it up now. Commissioner Schultz, I understand that you were recently recognized by Women in Transportation. Would you like to tell us about that recognition?
Thank you. I have been recognized from WTS for Woman of the Year, so that's quite the honor, and it was a lovely surprise, and I'm thrilled. So thank you.
Is that for 2024 or 2025?
2025.
So it's brand new.
Brand new.
Okay, well, if we could put that in the minutes, that Commissioner Schultz was recognized as Woman of the Year by that group, we appreciate it, and congratulations from all of us.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of appointments to different positions, we'll go to the next item of business, which is the Transportation Asset Management Council appointment. Michael, are you going to address that?
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah, we have an individual nominated for the Transportation Asset Management Council. I think somebody is here to speak. The nomination is actually going to go in effect in May of 2025 and ends in May of 2028.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners and Chairman, Director. I'm Ed Noyola. I'm with the County Road Association of Michigan. I am the Chief Deputy Legislative Director, and I'm here today to request the Commission approve the CRA nominee, Mark Warden, Public Relations Director for the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County. He is in good standing with his commission, with his community, our association, and the board. Mark is also familiar with the asphalt industry. He was employed by the asphalt industry a while back. Mark is a true blue resident of Kalamazoo, graduate of Western Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in business administration in management. We're excited that he has to be appointed. We hope that you will. But before I leave, and after I answer any questions, I'd also like to wish our past appointee, Joanna Johnson, a farewell. She provided us great leadership in that position, and we will miss her dearly. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, and extend our thanks to Joanna, too. We heard from her many times.
Hopefully she's watching.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all that, her service.
Thank you.
And I would entertain a motion on the appointment of Mark Warden to the council. Is there a motion? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Turner. I think I saw Commissioner Brown lean forward to second that. So, supported by Commissioner Brown. Is there any discussion of this appointment? If not, do you want to conduct a roll call on that, Michael?
Sure thing. For the appointment of Mark to the Transportation Asset Management Council, Chair Hayes?
Yes.
Vice Chair Salisbury?
Yes.
Commissioner Welborn?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz? Commissioner Turner? Commissioner Brown? You have 6 votes.
That appointment is passed unanimously. Congratulations to a new person. Let's move on to oversight and informational reports. The quarterly bid letting summary from Patrick.
Good morning, thank you. Ready? In your commission packet for this meeting, the first document that we're presenting is titled the Quarterly Bid Letting Summary, which documents all the items MDOT let for the first quarter of fiscal year 2025, which was October through December of calendar year 24. The second document, titled Bid Letting Items, fiscal year 23 through 25, documents various trends in the bid letting process, including the number of projects let, the number of single bidders, and the number of all bids rejected, as well as payments made to contractors for that time frame of 2023 through the first quarter of 2025. The third document, titled Michigan Department of Transportation Procurement Card Fiscal Year 2025, are the first quarter documents of the number of procurement card transactions and the total amount paid against procurement cards for the first quarter of 2025, as well as identified procurement card transactions that we monitor. Do you have any questions about these documents?
Thank you, Patrick. I would have one question on page 45 of our packet. There's item 46, and it made me take a gulp when I first saw it. That's a $269 million project. And once I read it and understood it a little further, I got it, but I believe that's a 4-year project, and it's a highly complex project. And is there anything more we should know about it when we think about a $250 million project?
I believe that this is the project that that we've been just starting to announce. It will be the complete closure of the I-696 roadway for the next 2 construction seasons. The director might know more about that.
Yeah, that is the reconstruction of 696, adding on to the section that they just completed. What I understand, somebody else is going to have to back me up on this, I believe it's eastbound that's going to be closed for the next 2 years. Will maintain only westbound traffic while it's being built within the right-of-way. Eastbound will be detoured.
For about close to 10 miles, I believe.
Yes,
It is 9.65 miles, yes.
That's close.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted a little clarification on that. I appreciate it. Any other questions about any of the matters in those particular reports that Patrick outlined?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to comment on item number 31 in the Grand Traverse region. The reconstruction that's happening along, kind of it's the continuation of the reconstruction that was done on the major corridor there. And there was just an article in the Ticker, and the community is very, very excited about that. So I just wanted to know it because I've been doing some projects up there, and the addition of the sidewalk and TART trail connections and really provides a lot of safety improvements, large roundabout, but it's really, I think, a great project.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for that. We put a lot of effort into working with our partners up there, both the trails folks, the local agencies, and had some really good successes. Looking forward to building on what we did with the Grandview Parkway this year with improving not only obviously the vehicular traffic, which is crazy up there in the touristy summer times, but also the pedestrian and non-motorized, made it much safer up there.
Any other comments, concerns, questions? If not,
Okay.
appreciate it. Patrick?
Thank you.
Go on to the bid justification summary with D Parker.
Good morning, Commissioners. I would like to draw your attention to the pages numbered 84 through 127, titled the Quarterly Bid Justification Summary for the First Quarter of Fiscal Year 25. Sorry. Within those pages, you will see our fiscal year, 25-year program graph dating back to October of 2024 through December 2024. You will see scattered charts and graphs showing where bids fell within the 10% plus or minus target range. You will also see the justification and rejection reports and memos for the first quarter. I guess, do you have any questions or comments or concerns regarding pages 84 through 127?
Comments, concerns, or questions? Again, I say it, I think every meeting, but the graphic representation of this information is really, really helpful.
Thank you.
Instead of having to read a lot of tiny fine print.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you, Dee. And then you have, what, real estate?
Yes, sir. For your information, I would like to draw your attention to page 128, title Commission Summary, Real Estate Service Sections, Disposal of Real Estate Property Interests. You will see a list of excess properties that are being sold. Any questions, comments, or concerns do you have regarding that page 128?
Comments or questions about real estate transactions, page 128? If not, thank you very much, Dee. Appreciate it. Jason, finalized construction contracts, extras and overruns.
Good morning, Commission. Commissioners. I'm a little under the weather, so excuse my voice. I'm going to go over the summary for Exhibit B. MDOT projects for October, November, and December 2024 were finalized, 61 totaling approximately $260 million. 10 projects were more than 10% over their original contract amount, and 35 projects came in under. The final monthly contract costs were respectively 6.03, negative 4.08, and 5.64% when compared to the original contract values. And the calendar year 2024 is averaging 0.94 over the original contract amount, so we continue to maintain that really close to zero. Local agency projects for October, November, and December, 103 projects totaling approximately $103 million were finalized. 4 projects were more than 10%, and 69 projects came in under the original contract value. There are 9 MDOT projects and 4 local agency projects in the exhibit today, and I can entertain any questions or get information for the commissioners.
Thank you, Jason. Questions? Mr. Welbert?
Yeah, I have a question. I just trying to understand the chart a little better. To the right of the chart, you have the last 3 columns before you get to the comments. actual completion dates, final date. And I just need to understand the difference between the two. I've noticed that in some instances, probably more than a handful, there's a lag between the actual completion date and the final date, and in some cases, it's even as much as 2 years. Can you help me understand the definitions of, actual completion, final date, and what all that means, and why it's important for us to have that information?
Sure. If I'm thinking correctly, what you're looking at, the actual completion date is the date that the work in the field is completed. The final completion date is when all of the work for finalizing documentation and the final paperwork from the contractor is submitted. So there could be, and there typically is, a huge lag there. So we could finish a job in middle of November, and then for the next 3 months, they'll be finalizing the quantities, making sure they're on the same page, dealing with claims, issues such as that, and then once that's done, the contractor will get a couple forms to complete, ensuring that they've paid all of their subs and suppliers, and then we'll final the contract out.
Okay, thank you. That explains it. I'm still a little surprised and shocked that sometimes it can take up to 2 years.
Yeah, we have internal processes that, we target completing that process within 120 days, but there are, litigations and claims and issues on some projects that extend, and then there's just dialogue going back and forth that takes a little bit longer. But we do target that to be very small because we don't want the contractors to have to carry on those projects any longer, because that just creates more cost for us as well.
Is the warranty figured into that time frame as well?
It's totally separate from those timeframes, because we'll close that project out and then the warranty will be in place, and that's a different bond, or that's a bond situation, but that doesn't come into play with those numbers. No, that's independent.
Do you require as-built as part of this? I mean, do they go back and
Yep.
verify?
Yes, that's at the end as well. That's part of that process too.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank you, Jason. Hope you get feeling better.
Thank you.
Okay, that's everything under oversight and information. We do have a presentation, and that will end up with a motion regarding MDOT's Resilience Improvement Plan amendment to the Long Range Transportation Plan. Zach?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Give me a minute to pull it up. All right, thank you for having me. I'm here to talk about amending our MM 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan to include our recently approved Federal Resilience Improvement Plan. The actual amendment language should have been included in your packet, so hopefully you guys have been able to reference that to see what exactly we'll be amending into the MM 2045 Long Range Transportation Plan by reference. So, just to start, Michigan for quite some time now has experienced climate-related extreme weather that has negatively impacted our transportation system. I'm sure folks in this room are well aware of these instances. And so while MDOT was developing its long-range transportation plan, it directly called for promoting resilience and documents why that's imperative for our state. So MM 2045 notes that, among other things, climate change will continue to increase both in intensity and duration of extreme weather, and that MDOT, in order to respond to these changes, must foster increased resilience as infrastructure needs grow or the risks of these events negatively impacting Michigan residents and the broader traveling community grows. The bipartisan infrastructure law afforded MDOT the opportunity to more thoughtfully contemplate and act upon resilience-specific objectives, goals, and strategies contained within our long-range transportation plan. This one's a mouthful, but the Promoting Resilient operations for transformative, efficient, and cost-saving transportation, or as we love our acronyms, PROTECT program, not only provided states with federal funding to program resilience-related projects, but it also recommended that states develop the resilience improvement plan that we're talking about today. The carrot attached to this was reduced non-federal match on PROTECT projects. So that's the ability to save state funds for other transportation needs. MDOT, knowing how pressing of an issue this is and wanting to seize on the opportunity to save state funding, took this as an opportunity to develop a resilience improvement plan in collaboration with our statewide and regional stakeholders. Included in MM 2045's vision statement is the desire for MDOT to promote a resilient transportation system. To do this, MM 2045 outlined MDOT's objectives, goals, and strategies related to building climate change resilience into the state's transportation system, particularly in chapters 7 and 14. Those are community, environment, and health, and network resilience, respectively, and also in strategy 5, building resilience. In fact, the resilience improvement plan that we're talking about today takes direct action on addressing 2 of those priorities listed under strategy 5.1, which is to identify and address risks to Michigan's transportation network in 2 ways. So the first of these was to conduct a statewide vulnerability assessment, which the resilience improvement plan does. And the second is to develop methods to incorporate risk and resilience consideration into planning, programming, and project development, which again, the resilience improvement plan does. So as mentioned previously, the carrot offered to state DOTs is to complete a resilience improvement plan in order to reduce non-federal match on PROTECT projects. So since MDOT has already completed its plan, the prioritized projects that are contained within the plan are already receiving a 7 percentage points reduction in non-federal match. We're here today seeking your approval to amend our long-range transportation plan to further reduce this non-federal match by an additional 3 percentage points. So that would bring the total reduction of required non-federal funds to 10%. So this amendment would support the implementation of our long-range transportation plan by assisting with the programming of resilience projects, by reducing the amount of state funds required to support those PROTECT-funded projects. I'm happy to answer questions, talk more about the plan.
Thank you, Zach. Are there questions? Commissioner Schultz?
On slide number 3, you have an online web mapping tool to view risk assessments. I was just curious about that, if you could describe it, please.
Yeah, so this is which shows the results of our vulnerability assessment. So we completed this assessment on roads, bridges, pump stations, and culverts for flooding, extreme heat, and coastal erosion. And so all those results are overlaid in an online mapping tool that folks internally and externally are able to zoom around, look at, and explore our vulnerabilities.
So local units of government could use this as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Any other questions? So all of this is in cooperation with and compliance with FHWA and
yes, the Federal Highway Administration has approved and certified this plan. This is a opportunity afforded by the bipartisan infrastructure law, which remains enacted.
Okay. All right, are there any further questions? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion. Commissioner Brown moved.
Second.
Commissioner Salisbury, second. Are there any further? Is there any further discussion? If not, Michael, why don't you call the roll on this one too?
All right, for the vote on the addition of the Resilience Improvement Plan to the MM 2045, Chair Hayes.
Yes.
Vice Chair Salisbury.
Yes.
Commissioner Welborn.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz. Yes. Commissioner Turner. Yes. Commissioner Brown. Yes. You have 6 votes.
Very good. Thank you very much. The motion passes. Thank you, Zach, for your presentation. Looking at the agenda, I think we've come towards the end. And I'd open it up for public comments. The only one I have in an indication from Jack Hoffman. He would like to address the commission. Jack?
Comments today. This is the second one. It's got state transportation in the corner. It's a three-page. The third page is a table to which I'm going to be referring, so you could check that out while I'm speaking. Speaker Hall says that state-owned Michigan roads are overfunded, but locally owned Michigan roads are underfunded to the extent of $3.1 billion per year. MDOT says that state roads are underfunded. The attached table, Michigan Road Costs and Appropriations, 2024-2025, local and state-owned roads, shows the data used by each side. Speaker Hall argues that locally owned roads constitute 90% of Michigan lane miles and carry 50% of all passenger miles, but receive only 45% of state appropriations. Locally owned roads receive just $9,000 per lane mile per year in appropriations, while state-owned roads receive an annual $110,000 per lane mile. As a result, local governments face a deficit of $3.1 billion per year in keeping their roads in good repair. That sounds pretty convincing, you must admit, right? However, the state replies that the critical expense factor is heavy commercial trucks, which cause 99% of the system damage. State roads carry 83% of heavy trucks. By this measure, the state should receive 83% of appropriations. With only 55% of current appropriations, the state faces an annual deficit of $3.1 billion just to keep state-owned roads in their current state of repairs. Whoa, that sounds pretty convincing too. Who's right? Both are right. How did we get in this situation? Look at the table at lines 8 and 9. Line 8 is annual pavement damage calculated by adding current road appropriations to unmet needs. Line 9 shows the amount of truck road taxes restricted to fixing the damage caused. Total annual damage is $12 billion. That's $5.7 billion local, $6.3 billion state. Total annual Michigan truck road taxes are $600 million, with $400 going to local and $200 million to state. Conclusion, there is no solution to this problem without heavy trucks paying a fair share of the damage trucks cause. The authority and mechanism to assess and collect a regulatory fee on commercial trucks based on mileage and weight is already in place and functioning. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions of Mr. Hoffman? Thank you for your insights. With that, our next meeting is April 24th. We have yet to determine where that will be, but we'll let you know. It was brought to my attention right before this meeting that the Work Zone Awareness Week is the end of April, so it's actually that week. And the statewide meeting will be held in Midland, Michigan, as it was last year at Dow Diamond on April 28th. I attended last year. It's easy for me. It was 2 blocks down the street, but it was also fascinating. And the insights you gain as a commissioner regarding work zone safety and the criticality of it is immeasurable. So I would recommend that folks put that on their calendar for April 28th and put our next meeting on your calendar for April 24th. It'd be fun if we could get them together, but our meeting's on Thursday and the Work Zone Awareness is on a following Monday. So it probably won't work, but we might look at that to see if it's possible. Any comments or concerns before I adjourn the meeting? If not, this meeting is adjourned.